them on Zoom. So let's start.
Well, let's start. Dear friends,
Dear friends, welcome to the Jana Cekara
Film
Festival.
Jana Cekara Film Festival is a
This
festival
festival
that
is
covers the
dedicated
culture
to the East
and history
Turkestan
of
cultures and
Turkey.
people.
And our mission is to talk about violation of human rights that took place in
This is
each
a
Turkestan,
festival which,
as well as to
with the
demonstrate our
goal to
solidarity
show
with the victims of
various
war crimes.
films.
Well, you do know
And
that
as you
3 days
might
ago we
know,
lost the platform where we were
recently
always
we
going
have
to host our
lost
festival
our
offline, and we had to
ability to do
adapt
this
to an
festival
online
offline, so we
setting.
had to switch to
Thank you so
online.
much
Thank
for
you for
sharing your
supporting this
support.
festival.
Да, на самом деле, целями нашего фестиваля, может быть, как вы уже прочитали, я
Yes,
хотел
as
бы
you
еще раз
might have
рассказать о
heard,
целях нашего фестиваля. Это
you might have heard about the
раскрыть
goals of our
тему
festival.
Восточного Туркестана. Может быть, до
I would also
2016
like to
года
say
наш
that the
фестиваль был
goal
бы про культуру, про
is
историю,
to talk
про
about
писателей. К
Turkish,
сожалению, с
East
учетом
Turkestan. If
последних
before this,
событий и
the
обстановки в
goal of the
Восточном
festival is to
Туркестане, мы
talk
также
about the
обязаны
writers and the
затрагивать
culture, but
тему
unfortunately, due to
концентрационных
recent
лагерей,
events, we also have to
притеснения уйгуров,
touch
казахов,
on the topic of
представителей тюркских
concentration
народов,
camps
которые сейчас
and
происходят на
the
территории Восточного
issues
Туркестана.
facing by
Изначально мы
Turkic
планировали
people on the
провести
territory of
наш
eastern
фестиваль
Kazakhstan.
в
Initially, we were
онлайн-формате,
planning
но из-за
to
давления КНВ на
hold our
нашу
festival at an
площадку вынесли миры,
offline
и нам
festival, but
также
due
должен
to
был
the
перейти в
National Committee
онлайн-формат
for
в
Security's
течение нескольких дней,
pressure,
потому
we had
что
to
мы хотели
switch to an
сохранить
online format in just a couple of
момент.
days
Но
because
мы думаем, что мы воспользуемся этим
otherwise we wouldn't be able to
ограничением
do
как
it, and we had
возможностью, чтобы
to
достичь более
save
широкой
this
аудитории,
festival.
потому что одной из основных
But
целей
I
нашего
think one of the
фестиваля является,
advantages of this is that we'll be able to reach a wider
чтобы больше
audience,
людей
because
смогли
one of the
посмотреть эти фильмы,
goals of this
чтобы
festival is
было больше
to allow more
дискуссий
people to
на
watch
эту
this
тему
festival,
в Алматы,
to allow
в
for more
Казахстане. Я
discussion
думаю,
and
что
discourse on this
эта
subject in
тема,
Almaty and in Kazakhstan.
не
And
без
so,
помощи нашего государства, она замалчивается.
because I think that this
Я бы
subject,
хотел
with
поблагодарить
the aid of our
выразить нашу
government, is kind of being
благодарность и
hushed
большую
down.
признательность для всех участников и участниц этого фестиваля. Это
I would like to
включая
thank all the
режиссеров,
participants of this
продакшенов,
festival, including
все медиа,
directors,
которые
producers, all the
рассказывали о нашем
media
фестивале,
that
также
have
рассказывали
been
о нашем давлении, о давлении нашего
speaking
фестиваля.
about our festival
Мы очень
and
ценим вашу поддержку.
about the
На самом деле, с этой
pressure
поддержкой нам было легче
that we've experienced.
справиться со
Thanks
всеми
to all of this
изменениями, в целом
support, it
пройти
was
этот путь
easy for us
и
to
дойти до
handle all
момента, где
the
мы сейчас
issues and
можем
challenges and
коммуницировать с
to
нашей публикой.
continue on this journey and being able to, despite everything, to continue with our work. You will be able to
As for
see
the
the schedule for the
schedules
next days
and the
Да,
in
times
the
of the
comments on
movies, of the
Zoom.
films, you will be able to
Информацию
see those on our social media,
в
in the
комментариях в
comment
Zoom
section.
We're going
на
to
сегодня, на субботу, на воскресенье. Также
publish the
больше
They
information
schedule
in
for
Zoom
tomorrow on the
comments,
group.
the schedule for the next 2 days, as well as
Also, you
today,
can
and you can
see
also see the
everything
information
in
on
our
our
Instagram
Instagram
channel
channel
that's
called
called Jana
Jana
Cekara.
Cekara.
Мы хотели бы попросить всех участников, кто
We would
присоединился
like
We
к
to
ask
ask
вебинару,
all the
all
participants
participants who
кто планирует
have
дальше
joined the
участвовать в нашем
webinar,
фестивале,
who have
perhaps
joined
those who are
now or
planning
who plans to
to
участникам,
join
чтобы
at
be a
вы
part of our
проявляли
festival by
then
watching
больше
the films.
взаимодействия с фестивалем. Сейчас у нас
be
будет
Please
more
спикер
feel
Rushan
interactive,
Abbas,
free
be
to
more
чтобы вы
active
interact
задавали
with the
вопросы
festival.
with the
We're going to have
speakers.
Rushan
Rushan
Abbas as our
Abbas
К сожалению, у нас не
speaker,
will be
получится такой
and
speaking
we
формат,
ask
later,
чтобы
you
and
задавать
please feel
to ask
free
him
слова.
to ask
to
your questions.
Но у вас
But
есть
ask
инструмент,
questions.
тем, чтобы
Unfortunately, we're unable to hold
задали
this
интересующие
event
вопросы,
offline,
интересующие вас
but you
вопросы
still have the ability to
или
ask the questions
попросили
that you
нашу гостью рассказать о
have
том,
through the quick Q&A
о своей
function
истории,
or through
потому
the
что она
chat. So
проделала
you can
очень долгий путь
ask questions to our
из
speaker
США до
because
Алматы,
she has
чтобы рассказать вам о том, что
made this
сейчас
long
происходит.
journey from USA to Almaty to be able to tell you in person about what's
Да.
happening.
Также я бы хотел, наверное, воспользоваться возможностью поблагодарить
Also, I'd like to use
Freedom
this
House,
opportunity to thank
правозащитную
Freedom
организацию,
House,
которая
a human
профинансировала
rights
наш фестиваль и
organization that
которая
has
сделала
financed
возможным
our festival
наше
and has
появление
made
на
our
онлайн-площадке или на
appearance
офлайн-площадке, если бы
on
она
the
прошла
online
офлайн.
or offline
Поддержка
platforms
очень многое значила
possible.
для нас, она
Their
позволила нам
support meant
провести
a lot for
фестиваль
us, and
и
it'll
в
let
таком
us
формате.
hold
Я думаю,
to
что
hold
этот
this
фестиваль и все
festival
мы,
in this
которые
format.
подключились, мы делаем очень большую работу и очень важное
Everyone
дело,
involved is
хотя бы
doing
тем, что
a lot
мы
of work
думаем об этом
in this very
вопросе.
important
Разговаривая об этом
subject,
со своими
because
друзьями,
even
со
just
своими
thinking
родными,
about this
на
subject, talking
кухне,
about it
на
with your
улице,
friends, with your
в каких-то
relatives,
публичных пространствах.
in
Может быть,
public
выходя с
spaces, on
этим
the street,
вопросом в СМИ, я думаю,
anywhere,
мы делаем все очень важное дело.
and especially
Потому
going
что
online
это
or
это та
on
возможность,
media with it,
которой
I think we're
лишены
doing something very important,
люди,
because
проживающие на
this
территории
is
Восточного Туркестана.
something that
Я
the
думаю,
people
важно
living on the territory of East Turkestan
стараться
are
усиливать
unable to
голоса
do.
этих людей.
So I think it's
Это наши
important
братья,
for us
сестры, уйгуры,
make
казахи,
their voices
узбеки
heard, because
и
they're
другие
our
народы.
brothers and sisters, the
Думаю,
Uyghurs,
вот так вот
Kazakhs,
с
Uzbeks,
каждым
and all the other
фестивалем, с
nationalities
каждым протестом или
close to
с
us. And I
каждым,
think with
скажем,
each
сказанным
festival,
словом мы
with
можем
each
приблизить
protest, with each
конец этих
word
демонстрационных
spoken, I think
лагерей
we'll be able
и
to
приблизить день, когда люди в
help
Восточном Туркестане
to
могут вздохнуть и
bring
жить
closer that
обычной
day when
нормальной
these
жизнью.
concentration camps will be
Поэтому
closed and
спасибо
those
вам, что
people
вы
will be able
присоединились.
to
Я
live
надеюсь, что
normal
вы...
lives without pressure. So thank you all for joining
что
us,
для
and
вас этот фестиваль будет полезным, и
I hope that this
вы
festival will be
почувствуете,
useful
может
for
быть,
all of you,
единение и
and I hope that you will
причастность
feel
к этому вопросу. Сейчас я бы хотел
the
передать слово
connection
Rushan Abbas.
to this question. Right now,
I
I would
wanted to
like to give the word
introduce
to Rushan
Rushan
Abbas.
Abbas and give the floor to her to continue the event, to continue the opening ceremony, and to tell us more about herself and what is going on in East Turkestan. I think we can go, Zarina.
Да.
Yes, we're
Let's
going to
begin.
go.
Rushan
We're
Abbas
going
will
to
have the
give
floor
Rushan
now.
Abbas the floor,
Yes,
and
she will join us now.
she'll be speaking now.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Zarina and Rafkat and all the members who worked hard to make this festival, available for everyone online. I am speaking today out of necessity. I'm a mother who had fulfilling life with a successful career. And I never thought that I would quit my full-time job and I become an activist going around the world and exposing China's genocidal policies and the crimes against humanity. I never thought I would have to fight for my own sister's freedom. And I never thought that in the 21st century, China would conduct an active genocide against the Uyghur, Kazakh, and all the other Turkic Muslim people living in East. Chinese communist regime is racism and adding with cutting edge technology in our homeland, and the genocidal policies have been confirmed through the Beijing's own leaked documents time after time, but by hundreds. What's this? Beijing's own leaked documents time after time, but the hundreds of expertise and the survivors' testimonies. The Chinese government's official documents published in Chinese media stated that must, quote unquote, must first break the Uyghur and the Kazakh people's lineage and break their roots and break their connections, break their origin. This type of opposition also begins from people who deny the value of the lives of others. Our people back home, they are being the victims of Chinese communist regime's oppression for decades. Right after the establishment of People's Republic of China in 1949, the Uyghurs became the victims of, Uyghurs were being labeled as nationalists. During the 60s in the Cultural Revolution, Uyghurs were labeled as of counter-revolutionaries. And then right after the establishment of the Central Asian republics like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, the Chinese government immediately labeled Uyghurs as separatists. And now, currently, with this, after 9/11 tragedy, the Chinese government labeled Uyghurs as terrorists, while criminalizing every aspect of normal practice of Islam as illegal religious activities. And for myself, my story starts with speaking out right about 5 years ago, which is on September 5th, actually. In 2018, I, as an American citizen who's living in America since 1989, and being an American citizen since 1995, I exercised my freedom of speech in America, and I spoke out against China's oppressive policies and the detainment of the millions of innocent Uyghur people in the camps, outlining the fate of my in-laws. My husband's entire family went missing since April of 2017. So when I spoke about this, the Chinese government detained my own sister, a retired medical doctor. She was taken only 6 days after my first public speech. My sister is not a political person. She's just a very ordinary, law-abiding citizen who's living very altruistic, just the ordinary life in Urumqi. Now, my daughters, my sister's 2 daughters who are living in the United States, raising their children without their grandma and have difficulty living normal lives as they are tormented and worry for their mother. And our story is not unique, and it's just one of the millions of the Uyghurs who are facing in diaspora. It seems unbelievable in 21st century, the Chinese government can conduct an active genocide like this and get away with it. But that's what's happening. So Beijing's genocidal policies against the Uyghurs and the Kazakhs have left the force of state-sanctioned human trafficking, basically, because if you look at all the atrocities with Uyghur and the Kazakh girls forcing to marry Han Chinese men, and in the name of marriages, they are being raped without they are unwillingly marrying these Chinese men. And this is what I call state-sanctioned, government-sponsored mass rape of the Uyghur women. Because if she refuses such a forced marriage, then herself, her families, her siblings, everybody will be sent to the camps in the name of Islamic extremists did not want their daughter to marry non-Muslim Han Chinese. About 1 million Uyghur children are taken from their family, from their parents, sent to state-run orphanages where they're being raised as, being raised with Chinese communist ideologies. And also this genocide making Uyghur women's bodies are the battleground of this genocide is taking place because Uyghur, Kazakh, and all the Turkic Muslim women are facing forced sterilizations, forced abortions. And the Chinese media reported 1.1 million Han Chinese men moved into Uyghur homes, live inside of their homes, while Uyghur men are sent to state-run orphanages, sent to detention centers and the forced labor facilities. Uyghur women at home, the wives and the daughters are subject to sexual abuse. So fighting for the rights and the values of others starts with recognizing the value of human lives, because what's happening to Uyghurs is a humanity issue. We need to recognize what the Chinese Communist regime is doing for what it is. While China is openly conducting genocide, the world is mute as Chinese government buys the compliance of the business world and the world leaders, politicians, the mainstream media, the United Nations, and even Hollywood and the famous celebrities, journalists, with the Chinese blood money that they are making from the Uyghur and the Kazakh slaves. When you look at all these people are so vocal against any kind of social injustice, rightfully, they should speak out. But where are they when the Chinese government is basically abusing every aspect of human lives and openly conducting an active genocide and eradicating and exterminating the Uyghur and the Kazakh and the other Turkic people in East Turkestan? The path to becoming an activist or advocate begins for all who are making a difference in ending the atrocities by waking up to the realities happening in the world around us. I recognize many people here, the young people who are organizing this festival are defending the rights, basic rights of the people. In a sense, the activism and the advocacy is born out of necessity. We must be willing to emotionally invest ourselves while maintaining hope. When I see you and all these young activists and advocates around me, that's where I gain strength and courage, and that gives me hope. So being a young activist are never easy, but I would recommend you to never underestimate yourselves and your abilities. You have a unique ability to use your voice in the ways that the others cannot. Your boldness is desperately needed to make what's wrong. And the Chinese regime is right next to you. So your fight is not just for your brothers and sisters in East Turkestan, not just the fighting for the future of the Uyghur people, but to save the free world from the Chinese dictatorship regime. With China's recent totalitarian, complete surveillance police state that they are conducting in our homeland is not just staying within their borders. They're importing these to all over the world, mainly to Central Asia and the Southeast Asia, and in Latin America, all over the Africa, and even many of the European and Balkan countries. So the Xinjiang, so-called Xinjiang province, or our homeland, East Turkestan, is being used as a testing ground for the Chinese Communist regime. And the testing the limits in the world, more the international community stays silent without doing anything, allowing the Chinese government to get away with such atrocities in the 21st century, it will undermine the safety and the freedom and the democracy and the sovereignty of all countries around China. So I would ask all of you to raise your voice, educate yourself with what China is doing about the Uyghur people, and spread the words, and try to hold China accountable. If we don't stop China right now, then it's going to be the free world. Our children and our grandchildren, they all will face the consequences of an illiberal world. We are living this, so we are here to tell you, look at us and take our situation as lessons learned and try to defend yourself, defend your country, defend your sovereignty. Unless if you take action to stop China right now, then remember everything I said today and imagine that will be your future. And I want to leave something positive at the end, before I move over to have a Q&A and answer your questions. We see the silver lines at the end of the tunnel, always, and every country we travel to, and every time we speak. Because we see many people out there trying to defend the justice and be the voice for millions of voiceless people. People who are organizing these film screenings and the festivals are one of them. Thank you for listening.
I would like to join you. I think we have some very valuable time. Your physical presence in Almaty in Kazakhstan is very valuable, I think. I don't remember the last time such a such an important figure in advocacy for the Uyghur human rights came to the region and is openly speaking here. Well, it's not openly, of course, since the offline festival was canceled. And I think one of the reasons was that we have Rushan Abbas coming to Kazakhstan. And I think I just want to continue the Q&A once we are figuring out what the questions of the audience is. And I think I would like to say, if anyone has a question and want to raise their question to Rushan Abbas, you can raise your hand in Zoom, and then we will give you a floor to ask your question. And I think one of the technical guys will voice your question for you. I think my first question would be for you, and I think it's very important for all activists. You have your personal life, you have your sister who is now in danger. How do you overcome your personal safety or the safety of your loved ones and continue fighting, knowing that it may hurt your personal safety or safety of your close ones? I'm sure it crossed your mind that maybe I can stop all of this, maybe my sister will be safe.
If we all worry about our own safety, which we all die at once, you know, if we start to worry about how we can survive or how we can be safe, then who's out there to defend freedom? When the Chinese government detained my sister 5 years ago, they undermined one thing because they never understand that. The Chinese communist regime never understands the power of love. The love I have for my sister, the love I have for my people, the love I have for my country, as well as the love I have for the freedom and the democracy, which I left my homeland in 1989 at the age of 21. That power of love and missing my sister every day. And I have her photo on my phone. Every day I look at her picture. I wake up with her face. I go to bed with her face. That's where I refuel myself with energy every day to fight onwards. I just want to add one more thing. I'm here with my husband for this festival, and we came to Kazakhstan together. He has lost contact with his family for 6.5 years, since April 2017. And then about 3 weeks ago, he learned from some third party that his father, my father-in-law, passed away in January. In today's world, information era with nanotechnologies, it took him almost 7.5 months to learn the death of his father. And this is the only piece of information he ever got in the last 6.5 years. So this is the reality for most of the Uyghur people. So if I don't speak out because of my own safety, living in a free country like the United States, then I should have an issue with my conscience.
What do you think, like, for other people who choose maybe to ignore the problem or think that they can live without, you know, advocating for human rights or standing up for other people? Do you think maybe one day they will still face the consequences?
Yes, there's a famous saying by Newman Miller, I think, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it says, you know, when they came for the workers, I stayed silent. I didn't speak out because I was not a worker. When they came for the peasants, I didn't speak out because I wasn't a peasant. When they came for the Christians, I did not speak out because I was not a Christian. And, you know, just it goes on and on with lists of different people, different groups. But when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me. So if we stay silent, if we don't speak out today, then when it comes to themselves, then it's not going to be any people out there to defend them. This is a test for humanity. What's happening to Uyghur people today is a test for conscience of the world. Majority of the world population and the world leaders are failing this test. But this is going to go down to the history books. This is the time to be on the right side of the history. There's no neutrality in genocide. There's either you fight the genocide and stay at the right side of the history and the fight against the dictatorship and the genocidal regime like China, or in the future, your children and your grandchildren will come to you and ask you, so what did you do when you know about this? I want many people to be able to look at those innocent eyes and to say, I did my part.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, one more. Yeah, I just wanted to continue this. I asked this question. There's a couple reasons for that. First is obviously you had this choice. You're probably having this choice every day, and you have to make your choice to fight for freedom, forget about your personal life. And this question is very important in Kazakhstan. We had we actually have many accidents in Kazakhstan where people are massacred on the streets, where protesters are being imprisoned and activists being jailed. So it's a very important issue. And there's many people going silent about this. And besides, this is also a personal question for me as a member of Uyghur diaspora here. What I'm seeing since 2010, maybe 2011, is Uyghur diaspora going deaf and not really, speaking up. When this festival was coming up, I was asking the Uyghur diaspora representatives to speak up, to at least show some support for the festival. And Uyghur diaspora, everyone says that in Kazakhstan, it is the largest Uyghur diaspora in the world. No such country exists besides Kazakhstan that hosts 200,000 Uyghurs on their land. Understanding all this, what do you think about the importance maybe of Uyghur diaspora in Central Asia in this advocacy work, I think, in protecting the human rights? Do you think we can leave these Uyghurs of Central Asia as they are, or maybe we should do something?
That is $1 million question. That's a very good question, but it's difficult to answer. Since I'm here in Kazakhstan, in Almaty, I should not get into this, but I want to give you answer in giving example of some other parts of the world. So when we travel around the world till today, me and my husband, just recent last few years, we covered more than 30 countries doing advocacy screening of the films. And we met with many diplomats and many government officials, lawmakers, parliamentarians from all over the world, from Japan, Australia, Canada, European countries, European Parliament. Just most recently, we just spent the entire week in early July in Bundestag, German Parliament, met with many parliamentarian members from all parties. Every place we go, surprisingly, they always ask all these politicians, all these parliamentarians or government officials, they always ask us this question. The Uyghurs are closely related to Turks in Turkey and all the Central Asian republics. How come they don't speak out for you guys? How come they don't take your side and they criticize Chinese government? We have a saying in our language, in Uyghur proverb, if you hit the cow on the like thorn, then your feet hurts, which means it's the whole body linked together. So when they say things like that, when they ask us those questions, we immediately become the advocates or like attorneys of those countries. We always say they are the largest Uyghur community in Kazakhstan and the Central Asian countries, and they are living peaceful life. They have schools, they have their cultural preserved, they have their theaters, and they speak their language. They are well educated there. So the Kazakhstan government is doing so much for them. And the same thing for Turkey. Recently, there is about 70,000 people relocated to Turkey, and the Turkish government did not send anybody back. The Turkish government is giving them the status and they're giving them lives. But everything else is the diplomacy. We understand, although maybe it doesn't look like those countries are speaking out publicly, but we believe that they are using their diplomatic channels and they are using their dialects with the Beijing regime, and they are raising their concerns, and we believe in that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. A couple questions from the audience, Marat.
Уважаемая Rushan Abbas Khanum, хочу поблагодарить за вас.
Dear Rushan Abbas, I would
How
like
can
to
Uyghur
thank you.
people in Almaty help in this situation? In I think this whole situation, it means how can Uyghur people in Almaty help in this situation? Sorry, this is the question.
We do have the Uyghur people who are actually defending their culture, their language, and we see the Uyghur population in Kazakhstan and in Central Asia, and that gives us hope. Although the Chinese government tried to eradicate the Uyghurs, our language, our culture, our religion, and the Uyghur people, our ethnicity will not be demolished because we have a community like the Uyghur community here.
Rushan, what should happen for world community to recognize the Uyghurs genocide and apply actions to help to stop this horror?
There are about 12 countries and the parliaments around the world recognize China's atrocities as Uyghur genocide, including countries like United States, Canada, the UK, and the Netherlands, and the Czech Republic, and many others. And actually in United Nations Human Rights Council released a report. Although they did not say it's genocide, but they said it may constitute crimes against humanity. It's also as one of the biggest atrocity. But they listed all the atrocities that we have been saying for years now. The mass detention, child abduction, forced labor, forced sterilizations, forced abortions, all these are the elements of the crimes of genocide in the Geneva Convention, description of the crimes of genocide. They say if one element is happening, you can call it genocide. But the report, Human Rights Council's report says at least 4 out of 5 is happening. So with all that, there are some countries implemented sanctions. And they also in the United States, we have the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which stop bringing any kind of goods manufactured by Uyghur slaves should not be coming into the United States. So there are some baby steps are being taken, but is it enough? No. That's why we need more people, more advocates, more countries, and more leaders to take bold and tangible action. As I said in my opening remarks, do it not just for the future of the Uyghurs, but do it for your own sovereignty and the safety of your own people. Because if you don't stand up and hold China accountable now, they are coming at you. We are the last fortress toward the east. We are the last the group of people there being as a buffer zone. If China eradicates the Uyghurs there, there's nothing is going to stop them coming all the way to Central Asia, to Europe, to Middle East. They're already in Africa.
what is the approximate number of people detained in these camps? Is it even possible to find out this number?
It is difficult. Back in 2018, some of the researchers looked at the size of the camps with the satellite imageries, and that they came up with numbers of 1.8 to 3 million people were detained in the camps. But when you look at every single Uyghur in diaspora, they have or they know one to more than dozens of the family members. Some of them are like by the number of 40, 50 are being detained. So when you look at that, add up all the numbers. And also the Chinese government released some white papers saying that in this many years, we re-educated this many Uyghurs in the re-education centers or vocational training centers. If you add those numbers, it is anywhere from 3 to 5 million. When Cui Diankai, the former Chinese ambassador to United States, when he was asked by a CNN reporter about those camps and asked him, why are you holding those, the Uyghur, Kazakh, and other people in the camps? He said, and you can Google this and you can read this for yourself too. He said, by taking them to those re-education centers, we are trying to make them normal persons. Because of the language we speak, because of the ethnicity that we belong to, because of our religion, and because of the unique aspect of our culture, in the Chinese government's eyes, the Uyghurs are not even normal commodities. They don't even look at us as normal persons.
Have you ever been warned by US government to stop doing your work?
Not at all. Luckily, we have the support from both parties, Republicans and the Democrats. There's a joke actually in Washington. They say the Republicans and the Democrats cannot even agree on what the brand coffee they drink at the cafeteria at the Capitol Hill, but they all agree on one thing, that the Uyghur issue is a humanity issue. If the United States speak about the human rights in anywhere, they should first speak about the Uyghur human rights issue. And the United States government, both previous administration and this administration, they both recognize as the Uyghur genocide. But we do have some Americans, they sold their soul and their conscience to the Chinese blood money. They constantly attack us. And even this documentary, In Search of My Sister, has a clips of this so-called American who's living in China, someone from Hawaii, and he's just repeating the CCP's talking points. Every time I go on social media, I tweet or I post something, I have this trolls attacking me, and most of them looks like Americans, but they are repeating the Chinese government's talking points and narratives. And in Columbia University, I was invited to speak on a panel with some Tibetan and Hong Konger activists. So I arrived there, then realized that our panel got canceled the same day when I got there. The venue was canceled, similar to what happened to your festival. And that was also because of the Chinese students at the university, they protested. And because of the money those Chinese students are bringing to the university canceled our event. So I do face something like that from time to time, but as the United States government, no, there's no any kind of obstacles there.
Do you think there are some risks related to visa-free regime between Kazakhstan and China? Is there a possibility that more Chinese people will come and affect Uyghurs here?
I don't know so much about the Uyghurs here, because the Uyghurs are the legal citizens of the United States. I mean, sorry, the legal citizens of the Kazakhstan, and they have privileges and the protection by the Kazakh government, just like any other Kazakhs here. But you know where the danger is going to be? The danger is going to be the sovereignty of Kazakhstan. Similar thing happened to us after they obtained our homeland, they occupied East Turkestan. They came in by the thousands. They came in freely. They came in the name of helping the local Uyghur people, developing the Xinjiang province. They came in by digging the wells and bringing waters to families, cleaning up people's courtyards in the front of their houses. And look what happened today. The Chinese government always acts with long-term plans. They make plans for 50 years, 100 years, and then they go with that target. And if their target is containing the Central Asia through Kazakhstan, then this is the way. They come in, but they will never go. Look at the visa situation. Only the Chinese passport holders can come in here without visa, right? But does Kazakh passport holders, can they go to China freely without visa? No. So it's not really a just situation. The population of Kazakhstan is what, like less than 0.0, like 20 million, compared to 1.8 billion Han Chinese population. It's nothing comparison of the percentage. But why are they afraid of the Kazakh people going freely to China? And while the Chinese citizens coming freely to Kazakhstan, that should consider every Kazakh politicians and the Kazakh government.
Yep.
That should concern, I'm sorry, that should concern every politicians here.
There's a few words that you mentioned that actually resonate a lot with Kazakhstan. And one of the reasons, I mean, when we speak about decolonization, and Kazakhstan was a former colony of the USSR, there's a discussion going in Kazakhstan, maybe appearing on on the relationship between Kazakhstan and the USSR. And what I understand is that, which is very sad for me, I look at East Turkestan and what's going on there with nuclear tests, with eradicating the culture, let alone the concentration camps. And I see similarities between Kazakhstan and the USSR. And just as you said, the Chinese are coming and saying, we're here to civilize you. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the rhetoric that the USSR had regarding the Kazakhstan. And they still keep saying, like, we're civilized you, we gave you the schools. And yeah, so there's a lot of parallels here.
Yes, absolutely, because every communist regime has the same narrative, same rhetoric, and they have same book that they follow. What they are afraid of the uniqueness. They are afraid of the original thought and the religion, because they want people to dedicate and pledge themselves 100% to only the Communist Party, right? Mm-hmm. If you believe your own religion, or if you have your own ethnic identity, then they look at that as a threat.
Yeah, and here we are speaking English to Uyghur people, persons speaking English at the table, but I think it's a different thing. But given we're in Kazakhstan, and given we're both Uyghurs, maybe a couple of words for the Uyghur community here in Uyghur. Қазақстандaki, Орта Азияники Uyghurlarga bir-iki söz etketseniz.
Мен bundan 28 yıl burun Kazakistan'a, Almatı'ga kelgen. Bu ketim kelgen vaqtimda men bu yerdeki halkımni körüp, özümge yana bir ketim kuch qudrat ve jasorat aldım. Men her daim halkım bilen billa ve halkımның, Uyghur halkının bu yerdeki turmuşini, ularning bağlığını körüş mening uchun naiti bir hem faxrlik hem xo'shallanarlik bir ish. İnşallah bizmi boshqa millatlardek xotirjam erkin yashaymiz bir kun. Rahmat.
Sizga rahmat. Ms. Rushan Abbas, thank you so much for today, for coming to Kazakhstan. I know you've been speaking to the local diaspora. You're such an inspirational figure. I hope this makes people feel inspired, understanding there's people like you, like other advocates in the United States, in Europe, and even in Kazakhstan. Maybe they will get inspired, and yeah.
Thank you,
It's an
Rafka.
important topic. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah, glad to hear you. Glad to see you.
glad to see you too. How's it going?
Yeah, a bit stressful, but we are managing actually.
You're so brave. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing all this.
Yeah, unexpectedly we are
Yeah, I understand.
the last
feel
minute.
Yeah, but you're there. You're doing it.
So yeah, let's start our Q&A questions
Okay.
session. Mukaddas, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for, first of all, thank you very much for making this amazing film. It was, yeah, if I say heart-touching, I hope it would not sound pathetic, but it's really one of the films that I actually will never probably remember. I don't want to rewatch it because everything is in my mind. And thank you very much for finding this language to show it. Yeah, I hope everyone have managed to follow the link and watch the whole film. And yes, we have the questions. I have prepared several questions. Maybe you want to say a few words.
Yes. Thank you very much for, being there, and with all the difficulties, all the obstacles, you're still like continuing on this idea of like making these voices heard. And you are my heroes, actually. You are so brave, and then I'm so touched, and thank you very much for doing this. And this is amazing how even this is not exactly what you envisioned for your festival, but you're still doing it. And then that's in itself is a kind of statement to say to the world, to those who wants to silence us, that no, we will fight until the end, and this is what we want to show, and this is what we want to say, and we have the right to say that. And thank you for doing that. I just want to say that.
Yeah, thank you, Mukaddas, for your words of support. Yes. Sorry, technical problems, but yeah, we're glad. Finally, we are glad that it works somehow, and people are watching. I see, and we see actually that so many people are watching the film right now because they really using the opportunity to watch this film. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much for giving actually us and everyone to this opportunity to see this film. Yes, and I just wanted to say to the audience, you can see, if you are in Zoom, you can see the Q&A on the bottom of the screen. You can see the Q&A, the window, so you can write your questions there directly, or you can raise your hand. It's also on the bottom of the panel. Yeah, let me so I can see the questions then. So let me start a few questions on the right of the moderator. So yes, I just yes have very I will start from the general questions, like how did you come up with this idea of screening exactly this scenario, and was the idea of the film connected to you personally? Why did you choose this particular artistic language to express this? And yeah, maybe first questions would be like this. Thank you.
The answer will not be very easy because it's a long process. I had since I was doing my fieldwork as a researcher in ethnomusicology, I always wanted to document through camera. So I filmed a lot my fieldwork, and I made some ethnographic films. And in 2013, I made my first documentary, like about a rock band from Urumqi. And then in my mind, I always had this idea of like, what does it feel like to make a fiction film? And also at that moment, I was around 30 years old, and my family started to get nervous because I was not married. And my friends and the whole community started to, like kind of becoming this very loud noise around me to pressure me somehow, and made myself feel like I'm not worth it because I don't have a man in my life. So I found it very upsetting, and also at the same time interesting to talk about. Even you can have the whole career you want, and you can be living in a free country like myself for many years. You will still get pressured. You will still be looked through this traditional lens. If you're not married, you don't worth it. So I wanted to tackle this subject at first, and then I came up with this idea of a film. From the beginning, it was very clear for me that it will not be a documentary film, because if I want to make documentary film, it will be too complicated to involve women to talk about their issues. There will be a lot of like self-censorship. So I wanted to make it like really my statement about this issue of pressuring young women to, like exist just through a man. The first draft of the film idea came, of course, from my own personal life, because I was nervous at that time. So I tried to find someone to get married with, and then it ended up really with a kind of disasteristic, because the man that I wanted, I think I could expect to spend my life with, was not the person that would suit my lifestyle or understood who I was. So the first scenario was about this kind of a situation that a lot of young women, not only in Uyghur region, but also throughout Central Asia, I can imagine in Kazakhstan, it still might be the same for some women. So that was the issue. So with that scenario, I sent it to different production companies, and Bastian Ozan, who's now the co-director of this film, was actually one of those producers who responded to this scenario and say, oh, this is interesting, and then this is never seen before, so I want to, like see like how we can develop this film into a film. So we were working on it. It was in 2014-15, and we were working on it, and the situation in Uyghur region drastically changed over the time, and it was clear for me that I will never be able to go back and then shut it there. So, and then and also it was clear for me that I will probably never be able to go back, because I started to talk publicly about what was happening there. So it was clear for me that I needed to include the other oppression, the bigger oppression of Chinese government, their presence. So that's how we, like from my very personal experience, the first draft, and then gradually I observed a lot of different stories of different people, different women, and also the region, how it changed since 2017. So the version that you see is like a process, and it's like accumulation of different things happened over the years that I developed this project.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for your answer. It seems like, yeah, you giving voices for the Central Asian woman who has this really had to leave or has to leave still in a patriarchal society with all of these expectations and all of this pressure, moral pressure, even if we are educated and just live abroad and not in a conservative community, and we all have to really follow these things or just expectations. And thank you for finding this this way of speaking this, because I found a lot of personal I mean, it was kind of also very much touchy for me because I'm a woman also from Central Asia, and in this story really touched me, as I face so much patriarchal order still being even living in urban society. So yes, that was amazing idea behind this film, which is, I think, perfectly shown, and as a it's one of the lenses of like feministic lenses, and as a female film editor or filmmaker and scenarist, it's just great to have this kind of films, because it really shows what kind of challenges we are facing to, even if we don't live in the rural area, or if we don't live even in the like abroad in a kind of not in the place where we were born, so to say. Even the education doesn't really change anything, so I still get this order and pressure for this.
But the funny thing,
I would just I have this questions then. Did you have maybe any protagonist of the film, of this film? And could you, if you could maybe describe, I mean, of course you have answered all this on this partially, of course, but maybe you have launched, or maybe you have found some stories that you could entangle in your scenario.
I mean, this is a kind of collage of a lot of different stories of different people. Of course, there's a little bit of myself in it, and as you said, you can also identify to the journey of this main character, and it is the response that I always get when women, especially from Central Asia, watch this, and they say, "Oh, it's like my life," or it's similar to someone that I know, you know, like. And some people even said it's like is this like someone's life? Like it's a real story, but it is not one story. It's like million stories of the different women. I mean, it's also a lot of stories that I heard over the years, and then some of the scene that I wrote is also based on some of my friends' experiences. And some of the scenes that I wrote is like something that I remember from my childhood. It's not like I didn't follow one person's life, but it's like a combination of different people's life, and then that's why I think it resonates in so many women's reaction, because they all can find some small pieces or some bits of their own reflection.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone that the Q&A chat is open, and also you can write it in the chat or in the Q&A kind of panel, so you can ask your questions there. But I still have still waiting for others to ask the questions, and I will also probably ask my questions. I really, I think, again, I repeat myself as a woman, and I'm really happy that, and also when I see personally, as an art critic also, when I see the films that have been made by women, they are so different. They don't follow the rational scenario of the patriarchal, you know, the so predictable scenarios made by men, and following their I hope internet connection is good. So following the kind of following the particular ways of scenario and the steps. And for women, it's fantastic, because it really shows I don't want to say irrationality, but it is different rationality, so to say. It's just our way of speaking about that. So I really like the films, especially documentary films and fiction films of women, because they really speak our languages. It's different. So if we speak of the colonial point of view, it's just really about sense and the feelings, but not about the something else in the worlds that we used to live or we are living in.
Thank you very much for
yes,
saying that. I just want to say, sorry, I just want to say, like, that's a very important point. And also, like, most of the film crew that worked on this film is also women. The DOP is a woman, the first assistant is a woman, the producers are women. So there are a lot of women involved in the whole making of this movie. That was something very important for me, and I never looked to the co-scenarist. She's also a woman. I never looked for a man DOP. Actually, I wanted it to be like through women's lens. So we met Juliette Barret. She's really amazing, and she's one of the people that I really loved working with.
Yeah, it's just made me yeah, I have a goosebumps when I hear you, because it's really about so we are not only talking about the human rights issues that we are dedicated our festival to, but also about women and also about the women's point of view. So I'm happy that I can have this session with you and asking you these questions and this conversation about the female view. It's also important for me. And yeah, now we have a question in a chat, and I wanted to read it to you. Okay, good evening, Mukaddas and the team. Thank you very much for this film. It moved me to tears. Again, this film proves through which difficulties women go through, and much more difficulties people go through in East Turkestan. What was the easiest and the most difficult when filming this movie? This is a question from Ramilam.
Thank you, Ramilam. What was the easiest? I mean, everything was very complicated. Everything was very hard because we faced like so many challenges. But the easiest is I can say is how dedicated everyone who participated in this film. That was the easiest part and very encouraging part for me, because everyone who wanted to be in this film, when we found like finding these people was very complicated and challenging. Once we found the right people, everyone was so into it, and they like put all their energy. And for everyone who participated in this film, making of this film, it was not like a job, like you have to be on set and you get paid. It was like a statement. So that was a very encouraging and easiest part. And the hard part, there's many, many, many of them. So, I mean, hardest parts are probably starting from finding money to make this film. That's the challenge for all movies, actually, is find the money. And it was very, very long and challenging, but also, again, I was lucky enough to have met my producers and the people that really supported this project and then believed in the importance of the story. So, I mean, yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Thank you, Mukaddas, for your answer. Touching a little bit filmmaking process, it's just the most difficult part is probably to find money. But when people are engaged, and it's just you have this flow, and it's not job anymore. It's just you are doing your work. Yeah, I just wanted to say that everyone in a Zoom can raise their hands to ask the question, so we can give a voice for that. So please raise your hands if you want to ask the question, if you are in the Zoom. And while we are waiting for the raised hands, and now there is another question. And Ramilam is also asking also where can we people from Kazakhstan find your other movies if you have? That's the good question. I also wanted to ask this.
There's one is coming, I think in Sunday, right? There's another documentary film that I shot in Kazakhstan. It's like a more ethnographic film that I made in Kazakhstan. That's coming also in this festival. And for my first documentary film, there are some DVDs. Unfortunately, there's no link, like a publicly available link, but there's a DVD. The film is called Qitiq Rockin' Urumqi. So maybe I can share so you can find it online and order it on Amazon. And I have lots of like artistic videos on my YouTube channel, so you can go and have a look.
Yeah,
I'm also
thank you
seeing
very
there's
much
other
for your
questions
answer.
in Q&A box.
Yeah. You can see it. And also we have the person who raised the hands, Ansar Anvari. Please, you can ask the question. We can't hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nice. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mukaddas. My name is Ansar. I'm from Kazakhstan, and I'm 30 years old. And I can a bit relate to the movie because I'm currently being forced by my relatives to get married. But of course, for women, and especially for women in Eastern Turkestan, is absolutely like different level of the problem. So thank you for showing us this. I wanted to ask the question about the main protagonist and the main like reasoning behind her decision to get engaged with Nijat.
Mm-hmm.
So is it correct that she decided to do so because of the so-called new policy of the Chinese government to like that many young Uyghur women are being forced to marry like Chinese people? So it was the main reason, right? Like the main fear to be forced to marry, to engage with Nijat, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it like that was the main reason, of course, but there's also another reason that she wanted to like have something to say about her own choice and her own life. So he wanted to decide for herself, even there's like a very narrow window that she can have her own agency. So the idea is like, of course, she's pressured from the family, she's pressured from the Chinese government, making Uyghur women forcibly married to Han men. But she go with this idea of Nijat because he represented something outside of this pressure, like the both of them. So she wanted to have that freedom to choose for herself. That's like a complicated choice, but it's not just because she's pressured by the Chinese government, but it's like there's like more nuances in there.
I get it. Thanks. And one more question. Is it still like happening, like this policy of young women being forced to marry? And could you please shed a bit of more light into that? Like, how does it work? Like, is it like materialistic incentive or something? I don't know, other reasonings why women agree to do so, or if they do not agree, how they are being forced to do that.
There's a very detailed report on Uyghur Human Rights Project. So they released a report a few months ago. So you can go and check and have all the details. They did a really good research on that. And what I can say is, of course, Hanman are also encouraged to get find Uyghur women. So they will have like better some kind of beneficials from the government. And Uyghur women, of course, they will that's I mean, they will not have even idea, like the courage to resist, because they know that if they resist or if they say no, they will be sent to camps because they will be considered as you know, like ill or poisoned by Islamic ideas, etc. There's a lot of reasons, but I encourage you to go check this report if you're interested in this topic, because there's a lot of details and a lot of database that they created, and it's really complete.
Thank you. Is it
thank
possible
you.
to ask the last question, or like, is it the limit?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and the last question, in the movie, like people are depicted like in home, you know, they talk in Uyghur language all the time, and in comparison to like Eastern Turkestan, we have like, for example, Kazakhstan, right? And we use Russian language a lot, and it's like the power language here. And we try to blend some Uyghur language as well, but as far as I can see, like not many people use Uyghur language in their domestic. So is it like the real situation in Eastern Turkestan that people speak in their families using only Uyghur language, or they like mix with Chinese? And especially I'm interested in younger people.
Yeah, if you there are few Chinese words mixed also into young girls' dialogues sometimes, and also in Uyghur region, especially in 2016-17, when it was not yet that harsh environment, people would tend to speak more in Uyghur. And then, like, of course, there was some more pressure on like forbidding Uyghur language in public areas and in school. Kids can only speak in Han Chinese, and then how I grew up and how my friends grew up, we all spoke in fully Uyghur at home. But of course, there were some Chinese words mixed into Uyghur, but not as much as you. In Kazakhstan, I heard people like mixing much more Russian, and they're like very natural switching from one to another, which is not the same in Uyghur families. There was not the same. I cannot say for now it's still the same, but by then, because the film is like it's 2017, we say it's 2017, that was still a possibility. We choose that year specifically because it was like in between this shifting era, so it was not yet everything like today, but it was like things were like political situation was started to change, so we placed the film in that era specifically for that reason.
All right, thank you for your answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to add for Mukaddas' the answer. In fact, really here, not only Uyghurs but Kazakhs and actually local Central Asian ethnicities, we had to speak Russian more because it was the first language in the Soviet Union, and even in the post-Soviet era. I mean, for us, it's just such a common thing, and we had to forget our languages and to learn to think and speak in the Russian language because it was a primary language, unlike in Xinjiang. And also for instance, Kazakhs and Uyghurs who were arriving after the Soviet Union collapsed to Kazakhstan and to Central Asia, actually, they were, they had difficulties for adapting to reality, which is actually much more russified than they were expected to come back to their, so to say, historical homeland, if we speak of Kazakh. And yeah, we have some more questions. Actually, so there is a question from Shahnoza. She asked, the film was a masterpiece. Did you film the movie in Eastern Turkestan, or in Central Asia?
Thank you very much. I don't know if it's a masterpiece. It's like my first fiction film. I hope I can make more. It was not possible to go back to Eastern Turkestan to make this movie because, for the obvious reasons, it was shot in Central Asia somewhere. We're not saying where exactly because the local crew who was involved with this film very bravely, they specifically asked us to not mention it. It's for the security reason that we are not saying where it was shot.
Yes, thank you very much for your answer. There are more answers, questions. Is there a possibility to watch this movie on any streaming platform?
Yes, if you have a VPN, you can watch it on Arte. It's a French-German television network. They are one of our sponsors, so they have the rights for the moment to screen the film online. But the film those links are only available in French-speaking countries and Germany. So you need to have a VPN to connect there.
Okay, thank you. There is another question. Why authors of the movie did not show explicitly the Chinese National Security Committee, or what is the name of the body that is in charge of camps in Xinjiang?
What is the last part of the question? What is
why authors of the movie did not show explicitly the Chinese National Security Committee, or what it is the name of the body that is in charge of the camps in Xinjiang?
We shot some images, some scenes with one of the cadre of the local security office or comes into the room, but when we edited the film, we felt like it's better not to have the human face of the oppressor, which makes it inhumane, which exactly what it is, because the Chinese government, of course they have faces and there's people behind it, but it's like inhumane and it's like so huge and so unpredictable. So that's why I wanted to keep it inhumane. Like you can feel the very strong presence of them, but they don't have the human face.
Thank you for your answer. There is another question. Dear Mukaddas and Jana Cekara team, thank you very much for making it possible to watch this wonderful movie. It also touched me, and I found myself also relating to it, being a Central Asian woman. Mukaddas, if I understood correctly, you'd mentioned that you couldn't film in the Uyghur region. You couldn't film it in the Uyghur region. Could you disclose where you decided to film in the end?
No, unfortunately, I cannot talk about it because of the safety issue of the local crew who were involved in the filming. Thank you very much. I send a lot of love to them because without them that wouldn't be possible.
There is another question in the chat. Are there any Chinese activist movements that try to talk about the problem of Xinjiang camps, if you know about?
There are a lot of activists. They mention what is happening in the Uyghur region, and also there are some after this white paper movement that happened because of the zero COVID policy of Chinese government. And there were a lot of I was watching a lot of videos of some assemblies of Chinese students in different parts of the world, and many of them were mentioning like what's happening in Uyghur region and what's happening to Uyghurs, Kyrgyz, and Kazakhs. And there are some awakening. There are some people who wants to make a difference and make this issue known. If you if you know, there's some fearless analyst, the student who made the camps actually revealed the camp like existence of the camps in the region is a Chinese student in I don't know where in United States somewhere. He looked at the satellite images and then he was the one who released it. And also there's a think tank in Australia, and the main researcher there, she's also someone fearless despite the all kind of I don't know, like pressures from Chinese community, and she continued working on Uyghur related issues. And also there are some journalists and a lot of people who wants to make a difference and then talk to the Chinese community to make them hear what's going on. Of course, compared to the Chinese community or the Chinese people in general, there are very, very few of them, but there are.
Thank you. There is a question from Akim Nikitin. Hello, Mukaddas. Thank you and your team for this film. I wonder if you faced pressure or censorship from the Chinese authorities during the film or after its release.
For the moment, no. I didn't. I heard like they started to ask question or pressure people that I know, but I didn't have any direct pressure from Chinese government yet. But during the filming, we did receive some kind of I don't know, some kind of, not exactly a pressure, but kind of some security agents following us or asking questions around like about what we were doing, etc. We had like some kind of anxiety around like, will they like interfere or will they come in and stop the shooting, and that crossed our mind. But we were very lucky, and I think it was also because of the year that we did the shooting. It was in 2021. So if we go back today, I think it will face more pressure, I feel like.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the answer. I just wanted to make a brief announcement for the Russian and Kazakh speakings. Сіздер сұрақтарыңызды қазақша қоям десеңіздер қоя беріңіз, оны аударып береміз. Если хотите задать вопросы на русском языке или на казахском языке, пожалуйста, можете задавать либо в чат, либо поднимать руку. There is another question. It was in Russian. I will translate it to you. So, good evening, Mukaddas. Are there those people who watch this film from the Xinjiang? Are they able to watch your film, or they cannot have access for that? This is about access from the people from Xinjiang.
I don't think they have any access. I don't think they will be even like thinking about watching it, because it represent like a major threat to their own safety and their lives. They might like, for watching this movie, sent into a camp. So I don't think anyone watched it. Maybe I will be surprised. Maybe people are still using VPNs and watching it bravely, but I don't know. I have no answer to that.
Thank you for your question, for your answer. I have a question. I actually asked you last time when we when you screened this film during the colloquium. I wanted to repeat this because I think it's a kind of interesting question, and I wanted to hear the answer again. It's about the women who make this ritual and is it really common in Xinjiang? Or really, because for my experience, for my childhood, I feel like it's so much common for Central Asia. We have different kind of rituals, and women, bakse we call it, they can make this kind of rituals and prayers for women who cannot marry, or who I don't know, who cannot bear a child, or for the fertility, for other different reasons, and women to women. It's interesting. And I just wanted to make a comment on that. The Saudat Ismailova, the Uzbek filmmaker and artist, she made a film about this kind of woman bakse. I forgot how it calls. I'm sorry, but yeah. So it just shows me how similar we are. And again, coming back to the colonial point of view, this is our all local practices that we are still having. And even in the 21st century, whatever happens, we go to the traditional way of solving it, and like matchmaking or something. But also we are following our local spirits, and we pray for spirits, and do kind of these rituals apart from but also entangled in the Islam, which is our common religion. But also we have our local kind of rituals and prayers and beliefs, so to say. Yeah, could you speak about this if possible?
Of course. I mean, the shrine activities were very, very important for Uyghurs. There were several anthropologists who worked on this shrine activities throughout the region. There's one today is still in camps. We don't know where she is. Rahila Daoud. She made her PhD. Her work while she was working on her PhD is to document like different shrines throughout the region. And also she very brilliantly did some ethnographic work about like how the shrines are functioning, and then what is happening and what is it for. And most of them are also like it's a space for women to come together and release tension and then resolve some problems in traditional way. Why I choose to have this specific scene in the movie is also because since the crisis, Chinese government really tracked down these holy sites, the shrines, and then they demolished like several century old shrines where people were gathering and doing all the shrine activities. And then sometimes the Chinese government turned these shrines into parking lot or a theme park or something, like it's I know that some of the shrines in Central Asia in the Soviet Union moment, they were turned into toilets. I know that existed. So it is the same thing that they're doing. And they're basically trying to, destroy all our roots, because these shrines are like something very important for people. It's the connecting points for many people who will come from one region to another, because they will do some shrine activities, they will move from one region to another, they will go for pilgrimage. And that was how the whole region maintained their exchange in between different parts of the region, and also with the rest of the Central Asia, because all these shrines, all these holy sites, all these activities are interconnected. Actually, that's how people exchanged knowledge, exchanged goods, because there are some shrine festivals where people will come together, and then that create a kind of economic dynamic even. So because of what is happening and why Chinese government is like destroying all this cultural and spiritual sites, I decided to put that scene in it, and then also to put it outside. Of course, it was like a random tree that we put some things on it, so it looked like a shrine. And also another thing that I was really interested in is like to honoring how women, they had their own system of like resolving some problems in their lives. And as you but as you said, it's like a very mixture in between everything that happened in Central Asia, like all the different religion which went through and everything that we experienced as people, as the like living beings in these lands. It's something so unique because it's the essence of the whole history, the whole past. So that's why it's important to say, like, this is not only Islamic practices, not only shamanic practices, it's like it's everything. That's why it's very rich, and that's why it's very colorful, and that's why it's strong, the resistant, resilient. So that's something that I really wanted to have it in the film. And I was hoping that we can find a real Bakhshi or a real Bui to perform that role in it, but unfortunately we couldn't find it. And also, like, the different parts of it, it's not like one ritual that I observed or I saw as a researcher, but it's like the combination of a lot of things that I heard, I saw, or I read during doing my research. So it's a partially like existent rituals, but also partially my imagination of how these rituals. And that's also something really amazing, because you can, I mean, as a member of that group of people, you also have that kind of history, that kind of knowledge in you. So it's also something that I went inward and then find from myself and then put it there. So
yeah, thank you. I think I was enjoying this part mostly also as an anthropologist, as a researcher also, and as a woman, because I feel like it was spontaneous, because like all shrines and all Bakhshi women, and they are all always spontaneous. It's not prepared things. And I would love to talk about this much more and much longer, but unfortunately our time is finishing. And internet. No. Yeah, I saw the internet connection. So unfortunately, our time is getting to the end, and your Q&A questions went just like 5 minutes long, but it was apparently already almost 1 hour. But I was happy to talk to you. I was happy to hear your answers, and thank you very much to the audience for participating and giving such good questions. And thank you again, Mukaddas, for your film and for your engagement as a woman, as a Central Asian woman, and also as a human rights activist. And thanks a lot. Maybe you have a few words to say goodbye, maybe.
Yeah, thank you very much, and keep up the good work. And I'm happy that people liked the film, and I hope I can make more film and share it with the public. And yeah, thank you for being supporting this festival. That's very important. Thank you very much.
And thanks a lot, everyone, and thanks, Mukaddas, for joining us today, and thanks everyone for participating, for watching the film, for supporting our festival, which was about to be ruined, but we managed to make it, and with your support, actually, without your support, we wouldn't be able to make it. And I just wanted to remind our schedule for tomorrow. We are coming back tomorrow at 2 o'clock by Almaty time. And please, all the links you can find in the Jana Cekara page in Instagram, and also on the website of the janacekara.com. Please stay tuned, and thank you very much for supporting. See you tomorrow. Goodbye, Mukaddas. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Bye.